Welcome to another episode of the speakEZ podcast powered by hireEZ and the Recruiting Academy. Today, I've got someone who doesn't just talk about recruiting, but she lives it every single day. Amy Miller is a recruiting veteran in the space and the creator of Recruiting in Yoga Pants, as we all love. She breaks down the hiring process with humor, honesty, and a healthy dose of reality, where us recruiters, we need every single day. She spent years in the trenches in big tech, and I'm super excited just to go down the rabbit hole with her and understand what's going on in this landscape and how to really amplify the recruiting community to that next level. So with all the applauses, Amy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here. Always fun to hang out with you, Daniel.
Always, 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 always. Well, what I love to do is just one of the biggest things is with transitions and
Yeah.
people understanding what's happening right now. One of the things that doesn't you don't lose is your personal brand, but also that goes hand in hand in the TA brand and employer branding. And you are speaking at the FRBR conference
Yeah.
November 19th, talking about this specific topic. Help me understand why you chose this. What is
Oh,
it all
yeah.
about? And kind of get me up to speed.
Well, I mean, I think anyone who's even remotely familiar with my work knows that I am, if nothing else, a good cautionary tale.
Yes, yes,
For
yes,
all things
yes.
branding. But no, I think that, and I think it's more important now than ever, like in this world of like AI and automation and all of this noise that we hear about, just like removing humanity from recruiting, which I have a real problem with. I think it's more important than ever that we are showing up as humans. We know our roles are going to shift. We know that the way we accomplish the act of recruiting is going to be a little different in the future. I've been in the industry myself 26 years. I've seen lots of change come and go. This is one of those big moments for us. But at the end of the day, we are people hiring people to work with people. And so the
Yeah.
more that we can embrace that, I think the better we will be at our jobs. I'm very excited about technology changes giving us more time to spend with people. But I can tell you, especially folks that work with any kind of security or online, those kinds of industries, they're very skeptical. So the more human that we bring to it and the more that we can kind of put ourselves out there and build a reputation of being a trusted advisor, ultimately it actually does make our jobs easier. So that I'm all about working smarter, not harder, Daniel. You know me.
Love it, love it. In your view, how much of a company's like employer brand actually
Mhm.
comes down to the recruiters itself showing up every single day through conversations, through interviews? Like, how does that really paint a picture in the holistic view of an employer brand?
I tell you what, you can have the best, most well-known, most famous brand out there, and I've worked for a handful of large tech companies, as we all know. But if you have a bad experience as a candidate or a job seeker, I've had people straight up like refuse to use Google as a search engine because they had a bad interview. I
Yeah,
mean,
for
it's
sure.
like it really is like these companies have customers. And a lot of those customers, whether it's a small mom and pop shop or a big behemoth like a big tech company, they're customers. And so it matters. Those little micro experiences matter because people talk to their friends. And how often, I mean, be honest, how often do you tell your friends about, hey, I had this amazing experience at my local restaurant versus getting on Facebook and like blasting the terrible experience you had at the car wash?
Right.
Negative news moves a lot faster. And so branding is really at the heart of that and making sure that we're doing the right things to provide the right experiences so that we don't lose customers, right, long term.
You're 100% right. I think at the end of the day, if you are whatever company, let's just say
Yeah.
I am I sell books, right? Uh
Mhm.
I still want the person to buy my books regardless of how the interaction
100%.
was in that interview
100%.
process. A lot of
Yeah.
companies pour resources of polished career sites and social media campaigns, but
Totally.
candidates often remember a conversation more than a campaign. So how do you balance those two things and the two
For
sides of
sure.
branding, would you say?
Yeah. Well, and I think we also have to remember that one interview, one interaction, one
Yeah.
recruiting campaign, that's a moment in time, right? But I can tell you with my current employer, 4 times, Daniel. I
Yeah.
talked to a recruiter about 4 different jobs, 4 different times over the course of about 10 years. If I had had a significantly negative experience the first, second, or third time, I would not personally be sitting here in my dream job. So those touch points over time matter because you never know. It may not be the right role today, it may not be the right location, the right opportunity, but fast forward 6 months, fast forward 5 years, whatever. You don't wanna create a negative perception, a negative experience, or a negative environment, which keeps people from coming back.
100%. Talk to us a little bit about storytelling within
Yeah.
that recruiting process, because I think we look at a company brand, but we also look at maybe a you're recruiting for a specific team and they have a
Totally.
culture and they have a
Totally.
brand. Help me understand how you
Mhm.
coach your team,
Mhm.
and congrats on the promotion. If you don't know, Amy was an IC. She took on the leadership role. I just kept on nudging her. Hey, you have some things
Yeah.
to share. She's now a leader within her team. But how do you teach
Yeah.
that? Because there's a million different organizations.
Oh, for sure.
In that organization, there's a specific team
100%.
culture and a narrative that we want to
Mhm.
come across. How do you coach
Yeah,
that in
for
an
sure.
interview process?
For sure. No, I love this question, and that's really so important because you're absolutely right. These larger companies, like my employer, my previous last 2 employers actually, they're massive. And so there's a culture, right? There's a set of expectations, there's an overall understanding of what this brand is and who they are and how they operate. But you're absolutely right. Within those organizations, there are so many subcultures. And there are so many, whether it's like a particular business lane, whether it's even further down a particular team that you're partnering with. And so being able to speak to some of the more intimate nature of that organization and that specific group and that specific team is really important. Now, all of those things should obviously somehow lead up to the big brand. Obviously, we,
Yeah.
we don't want to be like, oh, we're
Yes.
not like that because, I mean, we are part of that company. But you really have to get into like the micro level. And I think this matters for job seekers
Yeah.
because this is now your opportunity to understand what's it going to be like if I say yes to that offer? What is it going
Sure.
to be like to work with those people, that team, that leader, these coworkers? Like we have to be able to really understand and speak to the nuances of that, which again, hopefully fits into and supports that bigger brand umbrella that we have overall.
For sure. For sure. Companies come and go, jobs come and
Yeah.
go, but some of the things that keep with you is
Mhm.
obviously your personal brand. You've done an
100%.
amazing job. You have, 350,000 followers just on LinkedIn alone. You got YouTube, all of these different things. How do you manage that personal brand,
Yeah.
incorporating a company brand? How do you do that? And what are some best practices for others
Yeah.
that want to have a voice to be heard?
Absolutely. I think authenticity trumps everything else, right?
Sure.
Authenticity is super important. If you've met me in real life, you know I look and sound exactly like I do on video, exactly
Yeah.
like I sound on podcasts, for better or worse, right? We've got some cautionary tales. Really excited to share
Yes.
a few with you in the events in a couple of weeks. But I think being authentic is table stakes. I think
Yeah.
also, like, you have to balance that authenticity with the expectations of your organization. So, my content looks a little different in this job than it did in my last job, and it might look different than it will in my next job, wherever that might be, here, hopefully, but who knows? Because I do need to kind of modify to fit the organization and make sure I'm following social media best practices, any rules or restrictions that might exist, but I'm
Sure.
still going to be me. I'm still going to bring my opinions, my perspective, my belief of what good recruiting looks like wherever I go. I'm still going to index hard on candidate experience and transparency. Those are my can I have 2 North Stars? Because those will be my 2 North Stars.
Yes, yes,
So
for sure.
being transparent, being authentic, and keeping the candidate and hiring manager experience at the center of everything I do, that transcends company size, company scope, none of that stuff matters. Like, transparency and authenticity should be everywhere.
100%. As you continue to grow, there's more followers,
Mhm.
more cooks in the kitchen.
Oh
Obviously,
gosh.
there's positive feedback, there's negative feedback, you name it. How do you manage all of those interactions and help us understand what
Yeah.
keeps you driving to continue to push content, building that brand for the overall common good for the recruiting community?
Oh my gosh, it's hard because
Yeah.
there are definitely days, you can only get so many, like, nasty DMs before you just wanna go cry.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
curl up in the
Uh-huh.
corner and be like, "Why did I even open my mouth?" And so it's tough, but I think I've been really, really fortunate that for every, like, 10 nasty grams I get that one message that's just someone who's so grateful and so appreciative and had a very clear, like, path to success because of something that I said or did, and I don't say that to brag, but just because those kinds of accolades and those kinds of, like, little reminders that what I'm saying is resonating,
Mhm.
that keeps me going. So that's like number 1. I kinda go back and I learned this from Katrina Kibben, by the way, my friend Kat,
Yes. Yeah.
taught me to have a feel-good folder. So I every time I get one of those nice messages, I've got an Outlook folder I put it into, and so on a particularly bad day, I'll pull up that folder and read through like, "Well, at least that person likes me." So
Yes.
that helps.
Yes.
Um, the other thing that I've kind of had to teach myself over the years is it's none of my business what a stranger thinks of me.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, those 350,000 people, none of them have been to my house.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe a couple, I've got some friends, right, that have followed me or that I'm connected to, but generally speaking, these are not people who are buying me Christmas gifts. These are not people that are sitting at my table for Thanksgiving, and I don't mean that in, like, a negative or dismissive way, but the reality is they know one small facet of who I am as a whole individual. They see Amy the recruiter active on social media. Okay. I am so much more than that. I'm someone's wife, I'm someone's mother, I'm someone's grandmother now. I crochet, I have
Congratulations.
hobbies, I do and so the whole entirety of me is so much bigger than that. And so if someone is reacting to that one small thing, they're not reacting to me. They're reacting
Right.
to something that was sparked in them, an emotion that was brought forth in them because of one data point.
Mhm.
Until it's a trend, not gonna worry about it.
So you're saying that people should have their voice. How
Yes.
should what's recommendation for recruiters that want to build their own voice
Yeah.
online, even if it's a little different from that corporate brand,
100%.
and giving them the confidence to continue to do that and speak
Yeah.
their mind? Because I feel like a lot of it is consistency, right?
Yeah.
I'll speak up once, I'll throw a LinkedIn
Mhm.
post, I
Mhm.
don't get any a lot of reactions,
Yep.
and then, all right, I'm gonna give up and not do it. What
Absolutely.
keeps you consistent and what keeps you
Yeah.
driving? And what are the recommendations for other people that you want to hear their voices, you want to
Yeah.
hear their stories, and really encourage them to continue to give their voice?
I think that you need to have a really solid why,
Sure.
right? Why am I doing this? Why am I bothering? Why am I opening this app today? Why am I writing that post tomorrow? For me, the why and again, it's gonna be different for everyone. There's no wrong answer here, but for me, I had kind of this moment of realization, and this probably goes back 10 or 15 years, like when I was originally like blogging and like first, getting connected to the online recruiting community. I wanted to be the recruiter that I didn't have when I was growing my career. I didn't know what I didn't know as a baby recruiter, as a young woman trying to navigate corporate environments that I had no familiarity with. I was grew up, blue collar, poor. Like this was I didn't go to college. I didn't learn any of this stuff, right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
trying to navigate the professional world was really hard for me.
Yeah.
And so I recognized, like, if I struggled with this early in my career and I struggled with, some of the changes and shifts in the economy and recruiting practices and all the things, surely people who are not recruiters are suffering that much more. So let
Mhm.
me put out content that I would have found helpful as a job seeker, as someone new to my career, as someone changing jobs for the first time in 10 years, whatever that might be. And so it started from there. And I've like held on to that core, like, what would I want to know if I were a job seeker who had no experience in this thing or not familiar with that thing? And people like to kind of, poke fun, which I love. I think it's hilarious. But like I have this whole like rant about ATSs and, different things, right? And it's because I'm coming from that lens of like, the average person doesn't know what's going on. The average person doesn't
Right.
have the insights that I have. Let me peel back the curtain here and show you what's going on. And the second part of that is I want to enable people to ask the right questions. So those are my whys. I want to be the recruiter that I needed when I needed a recruiter, and I want to help people ask the right questions. I'm not going to have all the answers. I don't know everything about everywhere and all the hiring that happens at all the places, but I can help you have enough of an understanding that you're able to ask what you need to ask to get what you need, and that is what I would encourage everyone to do. And for some folks, and there's again, no wrong answers here, right? For some folks, it's like, hey, I really want to bring awareness to this company, to this project, to this thing I'm a part of. That's totally fine. You can do that. I chose a bigger picture, which is also okay. But again, defining your why, figuring out what do I want people to take away from this? What do I want people to think when they hear my name?
For sure.
That's another interesting one.
Yeah, I think reputation is big,
Yep.
because you look at even like the housing market goes
Oh
up and down,
gosh,
and I've seen so
seriously.
many people in my life that made a ton of money during a
Yeah,
window of time because
absolutely.
they could sell a ton. But now, when the housing market isn't as great, are
Yeah,
they the ones getting the phone call when someone actually wants to sell their house,
bingo.
or who are those people? And I think the people that are getting the phone call is gonna be the ones that are surviving, and just like recruiting, it's
Mhm,
ups, it's
mhm.
downs,
Yep,
but what is
yep,
your name?
yep.
What does that mean into the recruiting community and the
Absolutely,
organizations that you work for? Reputation is
absolutely.
everything, and, it takes years to build that up
Yeah.
and seconds to get
Oh,
ripped apart.
it really does, and that's where the cautionary tales come in, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
it can be such a narrow path to walk. Like, how do I do this
Yes.
authentically? How do I stay true to myself, but also not in a way that's off-putting? And I think people underestimate how important it is to be liked.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yes.
maybe we'll
100%.
dive into that a little more in our session, but I think everything you said, 100%. Like, and I actually recruited through the housing crisis in 2004 and
Yes.
2005, so I remember it very well, but,
Yes.
it's such a great analogy. Like, do you wanna be the person whose name is being said in the right rooms?
Mhm. Because the quote that I always got was, "Your career is determined in a room, uh, of other people 6 months ahead of whatever
Oh,
your
for
name
sure,
is." So,
for
if your name
sure.
gets brought up in a room that you're not in, that
Mhm.
determines it in the next 6 months. So, what are they
Absolutely.
gonna say about you?
And that's such a great point, and, like, we talked earlier about me moving into a leadership role. I mean, that was
Yeah.
2 years in the making. So I
Yes.
guarantee you those conversations were happening without my knowledge and without my presence that enabled, when the conversation, finally happened and when I was able to finally move in that, it wasn't overnight. Like, it was
For
it was
sure.
a process.
100%. Well, we are a couple days away from
Yes,
November
I'm
19th,
excited.
FRBR conference. What is one thing that you want the audience to take away from your session
Yeah.
as we wrap up?
Yeah, so the one thing I hope that you'll take away is some good foundational ideas that you can use to create your own why and how. So I'm not going to give you the cheat codes. I'm not going to tell you how to go build a brand. I am going to teach you how to explore your why so that you can develop your how.
Love it. Well, as we wrap up, Amy, I want to just say thank you so much for having the conversation.
Of
I'm
course.
excited for your session on November 19th at the For Recruiters by Recruiters conference. It's a
Yeah.
100% free virtual conference for anybody that needs to sign up and their teams. And congratulations on the promotion. You
Thank
are
you.
building a legacy that when your name gets brought up, they know that you made an impact on them. So I just want to say thank you for all you do.
Appreciate you. See you soon.
The future of talent acquisition isn't coming. It's already here. See for yourself at hireEZ.com.